This might be getting a little ridiculous, but I changed some of my styles yet again for this little digital note thing. Uh, it just annoyed me the way my navigation worked. I wound up giving myself enough navigation spaces to finish up with the notes. After I did this changing an element style through the style sheets array, um, I didn't go over this code because it didn't function the way I expected it to. So I'll play around with it later or see if I can find some code to replace this to do the same thing. But if you notice, each one of these list items now has about the same amount of space. So I gave each list item element a height, and I gave that height a percentage, and so there's a little bit of squeeze room up and down, as you can notice. And number 4, display visibility setting in alert box. I don't lose this even though I squeeze this down. Well, I lose it now, but just barely. So it has a little sponge room that way. And I did want to get some of my sponge room as far as the width was concerned. So I wound up fixing it so that I also could have taken this and used 2 or 3 style sheets depending on the width. I could have made other adjustments like the size of the font and the size of the padding to make it still function okay as you got into a smaller window. But I also put an overflow for these list items to hidden. So if it's a really long title, I gave it a title attribute, which basically pops up a tooltip. So each of these list items has a title equals, and then I set it equal to whatever the title is that's hidden right here. So you can see when I hover over this, it says JS displays H1 color and font, but if you look at the tooltip, you get to read all the rest that's hidden. JS displays H1 color and font family using inner HTML instead of alert. So each one of these has that little pop-up tooltip that will ensure that you know exactly what this little subtitle is. Okay, so I know I'm really going OCD on this, but this I think is the last time I'm going to do anything as far as styles are concerned for this. So the body didn't change. Again, the 3 styles that affect the WebKit, none of those were changed. So basically, I still have my pink and still stylized. I added a lot more stuff. I had to actually give my ID of left, my div with the ID of left, a border of thick red solid so that I can see where everything was fitting. And actually, this is overflowing slightly outside of that, but since I don't want to show that border anyway, it doesn't really matter a whole bunch. I just didn't want to lose this last navigation link. I didn't want to lose it. But I'm going to Z this out because I don't want to see it, but I'm going to have it there in case I need to play with it later. Okay, so the left again has position fixed with 25%, padding 0 pixels, nothing here, that's Z'd out, and a height of 98%. Maybe if I would have put 97%, it would have fit in that red border a little bit better. A little, but not very much. Not a big deal. Then the div with the ID of right, I think this is the same as before. Margin left, no, yeah, maybe. No, because I changed this to a percentage, I had to change the margin left as well. So the margin left is 25% and the padding's 10 pixels. The field set, I believe all that's the same. The legend, I think I gave it a padding of 5 pixels because it seemed like this information that popped up here was really, the border of the legend was really smashing up against the text, and I wanted to give it a little bit more of some padding, so I added padding 5 pixels to the legend. The unordered list, I made a few changes, and I can't remember what all I did, but I'll read them all. Margin left 3 pixels, list style type none, and padding 0 pixels. I think I changed all of those. The list the list item, each one of these is a list item. I gave the font size of 20 pixels. The border bottom is still thin black solid. I gave it a 5 pixel padding. I don't know if that's a change or not, but I know this is a change. The height is 6.5%. So as you see the white hover over the list item, each one of these list items is given a 6.5% height. So when I go down, you see that it kind of shrinks the list item to a shorter height to compensate for the smaller window that someone may be using. Minimum height, however, is 20 pixels. So as this squashes, it'll squash and squash, but then it won't squash any skinnier than 20 pixels, as you can see. That way it doesn't squish all of the text out of the view. And overflow hidden, and you can see where some of these, it's obvious that the entire title is kind of disappearing behind the next list item, and that's what overflow hidden does. And again, if you use overflow hidden, you may want to use a tooltip that gives the entire name of this subtitle, because this, for navigation purposes, you want the user to know what the title is supposed to say. Just because some of it's hidden, you can still give them a way to read what it's supposed to be, what they're not seeing. Li hover didn't change. The A link didn't change. The paragraph did not change. I don't think the text area changed. No, the text area didn't change, and the audio tag didn't change. Alright, so when I open this up full screen, it opens this up to whatever, 25% or whatever I gave it, so that you can read every single bit of the subtitle. In this case, when it's this wide, you really don't need the tooltip because nothing's hidden. But since I don't have multiple style sheets for multiple widths of the window, I'm kind of stuck with it. If I change to multiple style sheets, then for this large of a width, I would get rid of this title. So I wouldn't want the tooltips to pop up because they're more annoying popping up when they don't need to. But when you have something this small, it's probably a nice idea for the tooltip to see what you've missed. Alright, so the last little bit that I have for this chapter are 4 exercises. One has to do with making an external CSS style sheet, which I've been doing that for a long time, so there's nothing new to be learned there. The next exercise is JavaScript changing the CSS color. I've already done an example in this chapter, but this example has slightly different code in the back of the book, so I might learn something there. And JavaScript and CSS hiding P elements. I've done some stuff with hiding elements in the past, but I haven't done it enough to have it down in memory, so I'll probably learn something in that. And the same thing with the last exercise, display visibility setting in an alert box. Depending on how our visibility is set, an alert box will show if it's visible or not. And so I'll learn something there.